Um, Hello everyone and welcome to this Fab City Summit 2019. This evening is a joyful meeting of new and old Fab cities, and we're going to talk a lot about the local context and the global context of Fab cities. There will be a lot going on tonight, and I'll be not really in charge of everything, but I'll try to make sure that we end up around 10 o'clock. If you have any questions during this evening, please raise your hand, and I'll hand the microphone to you. And make sure that you talk into the microphone like this, because we're also on a live stream, and the people who are at home would like to be able to understand you as well. So that's it. Any other practical questions or any other practical stuff? The toilet is to that side. So if you'd like to, because it's a long program. So if you need to, you need a toilet break, you can go there. And at the end, we'll have time for drinks. So if it's a really unnecessary question, please ask it during the drinks. But for now, I'd like to give the floor to Egbert Franse from Pakhuis de Zwijger. In 2016, Fab City Campus was also organized at that island, right? Right there. Yeah, you can see it if you turn around, but you don't have to, of course. And he's also director of Pakhuis de Zwijger and the conference of which this summit is a part, WeMakeThe.City. Please give it up for Egbert.
So, hello everybody. So some of you have been here earlier, and yes, we did the Fab City campus at the other end of the water. And when I met Thomas in Barcelona once, I was certainly to connect with the Fab City movement. And not only this building, because this building is making programs around all the things that are happening in cities in this time. So day after day, a lot of people like tonight are coming to this building to discuss about sustainability, circularity, but also about loneliness and all the issues from mobility, etc. So the Fab City movement is bringing that all together and connecting that to the creatives in the city. And so it's about design, and it's about other ways of thinking and other ways of designing and making things in the city. So in 2016, next to the Dutch presidency of the European presidency of the Netherlands, we did the Fab City campus there for 4 months. And a lot of people from outside came into the city, and we signed in for the Fab City network. So that was the beginning, and this year's after, we're still connected and really welcoming you all, because I think this is a nice place again to come back and join our city. And it's besides, we're organizing this festival, WeMakeThe.City, for the second time. This year for 7 days. We started on Monday with a big opening night program for 1,200 people. And it's about the city for all of us. So all the themes are coming back, but with this extra thing on for all of us. So I think in this time it's a really relevant thing going on. So welcome to you all again. Enjoy the city, enjoy this night. We will see each other probably also tomorrow, but enjoy. Welcome again.
Thank you, Egbert. Yeah, and whom of you are part of or live in a Fab City? Yeah, and whom of you are part of the Fab City Collective? Some almost. Yeah, and or some are already part of the Fab City Collective, but not a Fab City yet. And whom of you have never heard about Fab City? Yeah, I see a very brave person raising her hand there in the back. Especially for you, we have a very special guest. No, we have someone here, Thomas Diaz. He is a founder of Fab City Global and director of Fab City Barcelona as well. Is that correct? Okay, and maybe not 100%, but you can add to that when I give you the microphone. He'll do an introduction presentation and tell you everything about the current status of Fab City. So give it up for Thomas Diaz from Barcelona.
Thank you. Well, I think that the first thing I have to say that I cannot be the founder of something that is impossible to found by one single person. So I'm part of a Fab City Global Initiative. I call myself one of the instigators, trying from 2011 of making this happen, and working especially with a lot of people globally, but also locally in Barcelona, on making Fab City, I would say like not something that becomes something concrete, but more like a path that we decide to join together in order to achieve one of the most challenging things that we have ahead of us, which is transforming the way cities produce and consume. No, and that's not trivial. So yeah, I think like one of the things to say as well is that in this very place, as Egbert said before, we organized the first Fab City Summit. And I think they said it like in a very humble way. The dimension of the thing that they put together was huge. It was scary. Well, so I remember that meeting that Egbert mentioned, coming to Barcelona in August, and he said, "Hey, we want to organize a Fab City campus. What does it take?" And I say, "I don't know." It was 2016. We barely started the initiative, and then he says, "Okay, well, we're gonna do it." And I say, "Okay, perfect." And then we were exchanging some emails, but then I came to Amsterdam, and I could not believe, the entire island that you see behind of you became a prototype of what a sustainable city, productive city, Fab City could look like. So you have initiatives with local 3D printing, recycling of plastic, urban agriculture, and so on. So it was like a massive experiment on how, and I would say like it's probably the very first time that we put an image on what a Fab City could look like. So it's not trivial that we are back again into Amsterdam in this Fab City Summit. I have to say also that we come from a very, very intense previous Fab City Summit in Paris. Probably Vincent is around, or some people from the Fab City Grand Paris Association. Paris won the I Capital of Europe, as well as Amsterdam, as well as Barcelona. So I think you can see a thread there. And we managed to organize together with the City Council and with the European Union a very, very big Fab City Summit, really overwhelming. It was a week of craziness. It was 3 days, but actually it was following up with a week of the Fab Conference, but the whole process of setting that up was super intense. So then we decided, after that experience, which was close to very traumatic experience, I have to say, in a good way, we decided that we do this kind of oscillating Fab City Summit. So for you to understand, we have this very big Fab City Summit in which we put a campus of 80,000 square meters for some weeks, or we take the City Council of Paris and we bring the head of research and innovation of the European Union and the mayor of Paris. And we decide to do that in a kind of a biannual thing. So I cannot tell you yet what is going to be the next Fab City Summit, but I can tell you that we are in this oscillation on tapping into the We Make the City. So we take a parasitical, we're kind of parasites of an amazing conference, but also is to rest a little bit from Paris. We're still recovering, I have to say, Vincent. So that's the first thing. The second, I wanted to make this a report very, as it was asked before, most of you know about Fab City, so I cannot drill you again because you will hate me. I know that I haven't done this many times, but I can tell you some stuff that we have done, right? I can go into some figures, and probably it's one of the things that we miss the most. Is first of all to keep track somehow what we have done, where we are now, where we want to go, not only in the long term but also in the midterm. And as you can see, somehow we come from a 7-year, somehow like a kickoff, starting, deploying what is the principles of Fab City, starting from an idea, becoming a network, becoming some people that that come together and decide we should make this happen, and of course creates a lot of this comes by creating a lot of awareness and creating events, publications, being present in social media and digital media and so on. No? So one of the very beautiful things that have been happening during this first somehow I would say phase of a Fab City is the creation of this idea of the collective, which is individuals that are stealing time from their organizations that secretly they they pretend they are working in the things on their company, but actually they are, doing something for Fab City. And I like to, recognize that effort that's of all of us, I think we do, sometimes even on the weekends. Then I have to say that what the idea of a Fab City network, and somehow to understand like the three components of a Fab City as a global initiative, the collective are individuals, people, as I said before, that are putting some of their time and energy on making this happen. Then the network are the cities that somehow these individuals manage to convince and to join forces. So it usually comes from people coming up from Fab Labs, talk to their city administrator, to the city, the policymakers, and they convince them to be part of this. And that forms a network, which is more like an institutional representation of the Fab City. So far, we have 28 cities, and soon we're going to have a few more. And then on top of that is the Fab City Foundation, which leads me to the phase 2. So during this, at the end of 2018, at the beginning of and during this year actually, we have been working together with other partners on establishing the legal body of all this movement to support, to have partnerships, to develop strategic partnerships. I will talk about that, but also to support to have the funding support of what we want to do at the global scale. So in the meantime, and what we have been managed to do as well is to bring this agenda to the European Union, for instance, and get some indirect research funding to support what we're doing. So we can talk about some of the projects that have been funded with the ethos of Fab City behind. One is Reflow, which we kick off this actually Monday and Tuesday in Denmark. Distributed design market platform. A lot of you are here part of that project as well. And Cisco and so other projects that we are part of as a collective, and we bring somehow the resources in order to support what we're doing in Fab City. And then what we want to do is, with this opportunity of funding and with the Fab City Foundation, we really want to develop a structure that can support innovation actions in cities, meaning like a deploy ideas of Fab City, and at the same time, 5 minutes left? Yeah, it's okay, I can do it. And then at the same time, developing of the digital infrastructure that we need somehow. No? So the phase 3, as you see, is blank. It's not a mistake. And I'm not going to click, it's going to hope something is going to happen. It's blank. It's because we are inviting you to be part of the definition of that phase 3. But probably it's not only one phase 3, and it's going to be a lot more. What we know is that what we're going to do between now and 2021. I don't know any. I mean, I know that what I believe that could happen in 2054. I know that it could happen 2 things. We can fail, and they will be all floating somewhere, and Amsterdam will be underwater as well as Barcelona. Or we can succeed, and cities will be producing everything they consume, and we'll be all happy. So some facts. One of the things that we were discussing today is like the lack, quote unquote, of Fab City to have metrics to measure its success. My argument to that success would be like the fact that this room exists is already for me like one of the metrics to say, okay, this is success for me, to be honest. But also we have some numbers that we can say, as I was telling you before, we have 28 cities so far since 2014. The first city that pledged was Barcelona, and we will hear about that in a bit. But we are 28 now, and at the end of the day, at the end of the night, actually tonight, we're going to be 34, not 36. That's we have been able to manage to organize a Fab City Summit per year, which is kind of a miracle. But again, we don't have any funding structure. We are just like doing things on the fly. So we're going to hear maybe what is going to be the next Fab City Summit in 2020 and 2022. Then one of the critical components of the Fab City as a movement is the Fab Lab network. So we have gone from 10 Fab Labs around 10 Fab Labs in 2007 to 1,800 in 2019. And then we have like over 50 members of this Fab City collective, which is a very informal membership, but actually tomorrow we're going to develop further what it means to be a member of that. These are some of the partnerships, and I think like maybe I have like 2.5 minutes left. So we are working with the UNIDO, which is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, in order to develop a research path on only to influence to the north of the globe, but actually to influence the big south, where the United Nations operates mainly. So how we can drip down to the developing countries of all the stuff that we're doing. We just signed an agreement with Outlier Ventures and other partners for the Convergence Alliance for Distributed Ledger Technologies. We believe that these component of technologies are fundamental to enable a distributed network like Fab Cities. The European Commission, I just mentioned how we're doing this partnership more indirectly with the Center for Bits and Atoms to develop the research agenda, especially in the technology around Fab Cities, and the Fab Foundation, of course, the connection with the Fab Lab network. Then finally, what we're going to do in the very near future is actually tomorrow we work on the governance model of the Fab City Collective, which is not going to be finished tomorrow. I think it's going to be taking longer. We are developing, for the Fab City network, some tools and resources for them to, to really implement the Fab City as actions, which is something that can be very criticized from what we have done so far. It seems like a Fab City is just pressing a button and being in a map. So now we are developing what's next, like what happens the day after that you do that. The Fab City Foundation, Lucas is around here, as well my colleague Kate. We are basically setting up that boring part, which is the bureaucracy of support this happening. Then I think I unveiled one of the secrets, which is going to be told to you in more detail afterwards, which is the organization of the Fab City Summit in Montreal next year. Thank you. And then one of the critical things I think is the development of a full stack approach, which is something that I believe is the key strategic roadmap for the coming years of Fab City. It's really thinking about how we articulate this very complex web of relationships that we need to create between something as as low and as structured and rigid sometimes as city administrations, and something as loose and very I would say irreverent and uncontrolled that is like this kind of a city innovators. Now, in creating this web to articulate these relationships is fundamental part of what we want to do in the coming future around the full stack strategy. I want to close briefly, the next 25 seconds I probably have left, with saying that I have to thank the Big Fun team, like the team that has been working really, really hard. They know who they are, so it's the Big Fun team. Ask for Big Fun afterwards, because actually, I felt like for some years I was feeling like it was a show of very few people. It was really difficult to put this together. Seeing what is happening here, not only thanks to WeMakeThe.City, but actually to the dedication and the passion that Big Fund put on this is fundamental to be a success. So thank you very much. I give it to you. Bye.
Yeah. It's impressive to hear all the stuff that has happened and that will happen as well. So you never know what happens in the future, of course. But it sounds like a really interesting ride that's ahead of you guys, and me as well, because I'm part of that future as well. Next up, we'll focus on what happens here in Amsterdam. Because of course it's important to also focus on what happens on a local scale. So next up will be a presentation by Karen van der Molen. She's part of the Fab City Collective and a program developer at De Waag. She'll tell you a bit more about De Waag, but she'll tell you a bit more about Metabolic and Pakhuis de Zwijger as well. So give it up for Karen.
Thanks. Today I won't actually be elaborating too much in detail on Waag as an organization. I'm standing here representing actually the Fab City Amsterdam team, which also is Liz Corbin, which also is Egbert Franse, and so Pakhuis, Metabolic and Waag together. Let me see, this is the... so it was already mentioned at the start of this evening is the Fab City Prototype, or the Fab City Campus. So it was on that island, but that's what it looks like. So you all have a little bit more of a sense of that. So that started in 2016. Indeed, Amsterdam then was named iCapital of Europe. It gave a lot of momentum and energy for Egbert, for Thomas, for many others to make this happen. Amsterdam was capital of Europe because of, on the one hand, the cutting-edge technology and industry that's happening around here, but at the same time, because of all the bottom-up innovation that's happening in the city. It's actually this combination of the two. So the campus showcased visions and projects on what this future city could look like. And as was already mentioned, a couple of months after that, we were able to pledge and become an official Fab City. So this is where we come from. We believe that this all was possible was actually because of what we call, or as a group of organizations, we call the Amsterdam approach. And the Amsterdam approach is that we don't perceive innovation as a technological challenge that requires top-down management, but rather that it's a wider social challenge that includes, or should include, all of city stakeholders. So really including the authorities in science and business, but also very much the cultural institutions, the artists, the makers, residents of a city. And we very much believe that making, co-creating, but also facilitating dialogue, all experimenting, all serve at the best interest of all these stakeholders. As I said, these three organizations, I think as organizations we played a big role in making the city, or teaching the city government to work in this Amsterdam approach, and adopting it for the richness and the possibility that it offers. For us as organizations, it was only a natural next step to join the Fab City Global Initiative, and see it as an opportunity for implementation of these sustainable city concepts, decentralized manufacturing, and very important for us, citizen empowerment. So from that, I think the way we operate together and what we stand for as organizations, it facilitated a lot in the city, and I think this is a very a good example of that. As an organization, we facilitate actually the dialogue, the very first dialogues with Kate Rayworth. Some of you may know, some not. Kate wrote a book on donut economy, wherein she basically said, okay, we need to define a new economic model that helps us to work or serve all the needs of all the human beings on the planet, but that within the boundaries of the planet. These notions we helped Kate, or we put into a dialogue with the municipality, with the city councilman and city makers, and actually put a seed, or planted a seed back then in 2017, with now actually super awesome things going on, because Kate's now in a very intensive dialogue with the municipality, developing the municipality's circular strategy, and basically donutifying the whole municipality system. And with the municipalities now thinking of not so much a global donut, which was our starting point, but now thinking about what it means to have a city donut. So how do we operate within the city, meeting all the needs of the citizens in the city within the limits of the city. So another exemplary project, some of you were fortunate enough to be on the tour today, visited, is a project by Metabolic called Schoon Schip. Very nice Dutch word, schoon schip. Repeat after me. So this project shows how to live in a world with rising sea levels. How can we live on water in a sustainable way? Actually, they've been working on this project for 8 years, Kate, Liz, about 8 years. Yeah. So, and after this 8 years of hard work, from past December onwards, these boats were in waves being towed into this place, the Keuvel, or nearby the Keuvel. And in 2020, they aim to have 100 residents living in this new floating neighborhood with distributed over 46 households. And while living there, keep experimenting with the unique challenges you face living on water. And I think one very exciting, innovative aspect of this new neighborhood is that they own their own power grid. They are themselves responsible for making their own energy, but also billing it amongst themselves. Yes, 3 slides. Thanks. So another super exciting project. Thomas referred to it. We started or launched actually 3 days ago in Copenhagen. Is a 3-year road trip we'll have together, and I think it'll be a turbulent road trip, but an exciting one. Is called Reflow. In Reflow, we work in these 6 cities on these 6 specific resource streams. In each city, mapping mainly based on data what resources come into the city and which goes out. Then thinking about how what kind of governance models, economic models we can apply. What could the future look like in those terms? Then think of what technological tools can we develop to sustain or scale such governance models? And finally, working on citizen empowerment, citizen engagement, because we very much see that if you can design systems for the future, but unless you take your residents on that journey with you and design these new systems with them, they're not going to be living in them, and it's going to take you very long and be a very frustrating process. So design with the citizens. They're supposed to live in this new world. And as a nice bridge to that, we work on educating or designing with citizens. It also requires them to have 21st century skills and a 21st century mindset. So this what we're also working on as organizations, in this case, collaboration with the library. Amsterdam Library, we're developing maker spaces in the libraries. There are now 6. In 2 years, there will be 10. What we do is allowing citizens in neighborhoods to learn about technology through practice, to be creative with it through practice, rather than reading and learning in books. So there's a whole new model for the libraries also to bring this knowledge and the futures through practice through the citizens. And one final ambition that we have is to think about how can we actually make these small-scale local production sites in cities. What should that look like? We're contemplating or working on a new project. We can only dream of that it will deliver what we want. But in this project, we are looking at industrial heritage sites, places that are now abandoned, see if we can use them or reuse them or regenerate them into places that, including their rich narratives and heritage and all the sentiments that come with such a place, all the layered identities that these places have, bring that and design a new or vibrant places that can be part of that becomes a place for small-scale production. And with that, we very much believe that we also need to pay attention to vocational training. So it's these groups in society, these workforces that will need to work with us on actually making small-scale local production happen. So that hopefully will also be part. Actually, that's part of what we're already doing. So that's it, basically. And I was thinking that I would have been nice to also add Liz's email and Egbert's email on this slide, but that's just it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I guess we'll exchange email addresses over drinks then after this. So thanks so much, Karen. Up next is a panel discussion, but I think you guys can add to the discussion as well. But I'll have 4 people here in front of you guys, telling you a bit more about their local contexts, their personal plans, and also their vision on Fab Cities. So please give it up for Hebin Gu from Seoul. For Ana Majó from Barcelona. You can just take one of the chairs, pour yourself a glass of water, grab a microphone. Guillermo Nafalski from Sao Paulo. And Elizabeth Corbin, she's co-chairwoman of the Fab City Foundation, and she lives here in Amsterdam, I believe, but she's not from Amsterdam. Please give her a round of applause as well. And I'll hand you a glass of water, because you earned it. Yes, and if you, I'll be asking these lovely people a few questions, of course. I think where will I stand? This is all a bit awkward. But is this okay? If I'm with my back towards you guys, it's not personal. Welcome on stage here. It's not really a stage. Welcome on this carpet. But so good to have you here. I think it would be good to hear a bit about sort of the city you live in. And also what your relation to that city is. Of course, you live in it, but what kind of work do you do there? So maybe it's a good idea to start with you, Anne. And you can take one of these microphones. Everyone has his or her own microphone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm Ana Majó, I come from Barcelona, and I live there, of course. But I also work for the Barcelona City Council. I've been working there for a while already. And that's my relation with Fab City, because as Thomas said, of course, he's done the work that he talked about, that go to the city council and talk about Fab Cities, convince people inside. And we were the first city to be convinced to join, so we were the first one in the network. And Barcelona is a Fab City since 2014. I'm sure he knows even better than me, but 2014. But the good thing is that, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay. So the good thing is that it's, we were there in 2014, but we re-signed again when the mayor changed in 2018 in Paris, in fact. And yes, Barcelona really believe in this and is working in that. So I can talk later maybe about what we are doing. And in terms of job, I'm the digital innovation director. So I come more from the technology side, even though I'm related also to economic promotion, and I was in urban. So it's quite all of the city related.
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll get into that as well. It's also interesting how you that you talk about a mayor change and sort of making a rebid to.
It's not always that easy.
No. And Bin, you are from Seoul. Can you tell us a bit about your work and how it is to live in Seoul and think about these things?
Okay.
Is it working or?
Yes, my name is Bin and I'm from Seoul. Seoul is a metropolitan city, as you know. We have 10 million of people living in the city. So basically, it's a very hard concept for Seoul citizens, the Fab Cities thing, because it's a lot of, we are consuming a lot of resources in the city. So for us, Fab City is more about the citizen participation. So if we don't make the citizen participation, then we cannot make Fab City. So right now we're trying to make those kind of concepts right now. And where I work is called Seoul Innovation Park. It once was a National Institution for the Disease Prevention, which is basically similar to CDC, right? And we had like a huge campus. It's 30,000 square meter. It's a huge field, and they moved to the other region. So we had the empty space. And what our city government did was to bring in everybody who wants to suggest a new idea to the field. And like thousands of citizens came, and they did like presentations for like a week. And after that, we found out that, okay, this once was an institution for the disease prevention, but now it can be a place to heal social disease. So that's how we made the innovation park. And we were the first member who engaged into the new ideas of the concept and those kind of innovation park thing. So we made a innovation fab lab in Seoul Innovation Park. And yeah, it's the Fab Lab thing is growing and growing every year. So we are taking like a very important role in Innovation Park right now. Yes.
Yeah. And this one, it is on, right? Yeah, it's on. Yeah, and the government also put you on a list as one of the I think the most yeah, you can tell it yourself. You are it's not here. Yeah, you got a recommendment. Yeah, because you when you talk about this sort of it sounds like you came in there from a maker. And now it sounds like you're almost in a leadership position. So that's really interesting, I think. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
It's a commendation from the ministry. So actually, makerspaces and digital fabrication was all about making hardware startups in Korea. It was before 2016. But we were the only Fab Lab which were aiming for the democracy with the digital fabrication as a tool. But then we had like a huge revolution. It's a candlelight, we call it candlelight revolution in 2016, which was a big scandal from the Blue House president. And after that, people tried to think, we actually changed the president after the revolution. So people tried to think how we can change the city, how we can change the world with our hands. Yeah. So then we were trying to focus on like social changes and social movement with the citizens' hand. And after that, whole digital fabrication and FemLab things also changed it to aiming for the tools as a production, tools as a democracy, tools something that we can make more citizen participation in decision making.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, so good to hear. And Guillermo, you are from Sao Paulo. What do you do there?
Oh yeah. Oh, hello. I'm from Sao Paulo. As Seoul is a big city, a metropolitan city with 12 million people. The metropolitan area have, I think, 20 million people. It's a lot of people. And we have a public network, public Fab Lab network with 12 Fab Labs. And it's a government. I think we start to do this in the other government, and as Barcelona, when we had the change, we fight and keep this policy. And now, what is the most important thing I think to say is that we have 9 Fab Labs in the boundaries, and we are working with a lot of poor people and people who are maker, not because they want to be, but because they have needs and they need to make something to be better and to have a better life. So we're there to give the skills they need to be better, all this stuff that they need. And we now start a maker residence about I'm sorry, I forgot the word, about moradia, sorry, housing, about housing, and people will do this residence to try to think what we can do for these poor communities to keep their lives better. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of Fab Cities things, but we were not a Fab City. But when we discover with the Brazilian Fab Lab network, we say, but we need to connect it. We need to connect these people because we need to share what we do. We need learn with you. That's it, and I think that's it.
Yeah. And you're coordinator of digital convergence, right?
Yes, we have the Department of Innovation and Technology, and my coordination has three projects. The Fab Lab is one of them, and we have the public Wi-Fi and telecentros. The 3 are for digital inclusion, because it's a section in our department.
Thank you. Maybe it might be good to shift a bit to the left, because then I'll be standing on this side, and I can see it if people raise their hand for questions there, and that might be useful. Sorry. Should have thought about that earlier, but it's better that we do it now than never.
Always better to do
Yeah.
something now than never.
Yeah, and I guess your microphone is already on, or does it work? Yes, it does.
Can you hear me?
You're Elizabeth, or would you like to be called Liz?
Liz,
Liz.
please.
Yeah.
Liz.
And you're co-chairwoman of the Fab City Foundation.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about that.
But can I talk about Amsterdam first?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Then we can get into the bigger, more nebulous stuff later. So I'm co-chairwoman of the foundation. I'm also research director at a company called Metabolic, which is one of the, as Karen so wonderfully introduced earlier, we're part of Fab City Amsterdam. And did anybody go on the tour today? Yeah, a couple people. Okay, cool. So you saw De Kovel and our new housing area, which I'm not going to pronounce. How do you say
Schoon
it?
schip.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you. At Metabolic, basically what Metabolic does is it tries to transition cities in ways that map our human metabolism. And that's why we're called Metabolic. So it's really looking at natural systems like the human body and seeing that as a really, probably one of the most innovative technologies that we have in our disposal, right? You take in an enormous amount of material and you're breaking all of that down to 6 common building blocks and you're circulating it in a really regenerative way to feed your system with very little waste. So we really see that as a roadmap for how to fundamentally change what are extremely linear systems at the moment, which is our cities, right? As Thomas always says, you import a ton of products, you use them for very short periods of time, and then you export an enormous amount of waste. So it's a perfect line. And we see this every time we go into a city. We'll do a scan, and we see this over and over and over again. What we're trying to do and why we're so passionate about Fab City is because we're fundamentally trying to recalibrate that entire system so that it's regenerative by design and is free of waste. So materials are circulating in ideally indefinitely to really not only enable us to make products that we think are super fun, like smartphones and chairs and all of the clothes that we wear, but in a way that feeds our natural systems and means that all of our valuable resources are continuously in circulation. We have a really long history with Fab City. We also have a really long history with Amsterdam. De Kovel was actually our very first project as a team. We were 4 people at that time. And the city wanted to create a clean tech playground, which they had no idea what that actually meant. And kind of, to be honest, neither did we. And it was a very small budget, very small budget. I think we got 30,000 euros for to build what you all saw today. Yeah, we didn't sleep. We all lived in the same house in order to do that project. It was very intense, but we were super passionate about it, and we really felt like it could be a really tangible place that people could go to actually see what possibly a Fab City could look like and how it could function. So De Kovel is completely zero waste. It's passive, so it produces its own energy. It cycles its own waste into new valuable streams. So we're recycling everything down to urine to produce struvite, to fertilize the vertical farming and the hydroponics and aquaponics systems that we use. All of that is being fed into our cafes, which sells low-cost food for the local inhabitants. And it's a live-work space. So all of the homes and the offices that you see are actually all reclaimed houseboats that we've retrofitted. And we see implementation is possibly one of the most important things that we can do. I think cities are monstrous systems, and nobody really quite knows how to re-engineer them. So we need to produce really tangible places filled with real-world people that are kind of generating these new systems and models so people can engage with that.
Yeah, and within the movement, people and cities need to do that as well, and that's where the foundation comes in, or am I wrong in that?
The foundation is kind of a bridge between like the 21st century and the 20th century, I would say. So in at least a kind of 21st century that we all imagine, where our cities are much more in the service of its citizens. They're far more open and participatory. The urban realm and all of its resources could even possibly be owned by their citizens. This model is very exciting to us, and really how we feel that we are actually going to be able to achieve the kind of radical change that we all need in the short amount of time we have left. Right? Climate scientists say we have 12 years left to stay within 1.5 degrees. No single government or large-scale corporation is going to help us do that. It's fundamentally impossible, and it's therefore really crucial that we bring everybody into this. And I think that's a really core part of the Fab City. However, in order to interface with our 20th century economy, which is mainly how you get funding and how you can legally participate in large-scale projects, it's very hard to have a kind of globally decentralized collective engaging in that system. So the foundation is really acting as that bridge. So it's giving us a common infrastructure that enables us to have a legal entity and a legal voice, and to access the kind of funding to really feed the work that we're doing.
Yeah, good to hear. And Haben, Liz talked about the 21st century. With regards to what do you think? Which infrastructure will we need? What needs to be changed? And feel free to add to that as well, Guillaume and Anna. But Haben, what do you think?
Well, I think we all know about the infrastructure, because everybody here already know about the concept and the infrastructures we need here. So I actually want to talk about something else. I mean, I mean, infrastructure things. I mean, Seoul is a huge city, and we already have on-demand factories. We have like 3 main districts for that. You went there, like one of the place. So actually, what we did was to collect all the information of the streets and districts of on-demand factories. And what we did was a workshop in City Hall. So we brought in all different officials from different departments who are actually managing those kind of facilities. And also we brought in some private companies and NGOs who are having maker spaces or something similar. So we all gathered, we did a workshop of making a Fab City map, and we were really surprised that we had like such a great facilities around the city. But the problem was that the first problem is that we don't know, we don't have the information. We don't know what's going on in different departments, and we don't know what's going on in the other private companies. Second problem was that they are organized and operated individually, separately. Third one, it's an on-demand factory, but there's no demand. I mean, it's a huge barrier between citizens and the technology in the factories. So next step we're going to do is to tear down. It's a huge meaning to have all the informations together and inform to the public, because it's a meaning of tearing down the barriers between the departments in the government, right? It's a huge work. Second, we're going to break down the barrier between the private and the public. Third, it means it's a tearing down a barrier between citizens and the technology. So we do this 3 things first. Then we can make some kind of a really good Fab City map that is used by the public. Yes.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, and feel free to just tell some other stuff as well, because I think you guys know the most about this. But Anna, you already talked about the fact that when you have a major change in a city, it changes the perspective on certain aspects of the future as well. What I was thinking about is Barcelona has been a Fab City for a few years now. It's really about the long term, and when you have a different government every few years, that makes it difficult, I guess. How do you work with that?
I would say politics is there and politics are changing, but projects that have a meaning and have sense don't need to be changed. And the thing is how you sell it, how you put the priorities and the effort to explain to different parties. But if the project makes sense, that's it. So for example, Fab City, it's quite a broad concept. We are talking about technology, but participation, human center. We are talking about circular economy. We are talking about many things. And what I think it happens that you stress more on one or the other thing, but I think it's quite the work from the people working inside the technical team. I'm not a civil servant, but I've been there for a while, to really convince what we are doing and what we are fighting for, and that this is a global government, a global movement. This helps a lot. If you are in a network, it seems that it's not me that I'm inventing a project, but it's something that it's an interest, the common interest, so you are there. And it's true that maybe last Monday we did the public Fab Labs. We opened this open space we do something in libraries, but we also do in a specific space where we have the technology and people can play there. In this mandate, what we did, it's more involving the community. So what we decide here, it's like, okay, we have a long path, like helping entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs to growth, but we decide that the same tools are not working for this community. So what we did, it's kind of what you said, that putting many people together coming from this community to say, okay, what do you want? So we try to, what we say, like co-creation of public policies. So we are here, we're gonna hear you, we have these tools, but this is useful for you because your philosophy is different, and we don't want to change it. We want to scale it. Yeah. Help us to do it, and then we get with different, like we really empowered the maker movement. We did the maker fair as a big event to make it visible. We create a fund to help some projects, but grassroots projects from the neighborhood. So I would say it's not that political thing, but it's more a project-based thing with an objective, and you can do more circular economy or participation, but Fab City, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
so
and it's important also to sort of put it in a network to make sure that it's easier to sort of to make sure that it's for the long term and not just for a few years.
Just in the dinner, I was having a conversation. Someone said, yeah, but sometimes because this is from the others, we are not to do it again. Yeah. I think that's what we have to really break. And if it makes sense, we just have to continue and build differently. But being in a network, I think it's good. Yeah. It's good, so join us. Yeah. Yeah.
And Guilherme, Brazil is of course an economy that produces for the entire world right now, as do a lot of other countries, but maybe not on the scale that Brazil does. How do you see the autonomy of your city? In sort of in the scheme of greater things in that way, because it's will focusing more on autonomy. Will that help you to be a more self-sufficient economy in that way?
I think in Sao Paulo we have some autonomy. We have we represent 11% of all Brazilian economy, and of 40% of our state. So it's a lot. But I think we can talking about our main aim here at the Fab City. I think. It's not what are we producing to the world, but what we need to produce for ourselves. I think I think in São Paulo we when we walk for the boundaries and you see all these slums with television and iPhones and a lot of stuff, it's not natural to see these. I think we need teach the people that we can do another kind of economic change. I think we can reduce what we consume. We can do community gardens to produce food for the schools. We can do small things. We can mechanize some. We can help people to do better things and to imprehend and to put this in a local level. I think we don't need to think to everything Sao Paulo is for the economy, but how can we do another economy with the Fab Labs? I think that's
so
that's
it's
a
really
way
focusing on a different level.
Yes, and we are on the government. We are improving these. We're working for this kind of change, and I think this is good. And now, because we have a lot of changes in politics, we are trying to do a law, put the digital fabrication in a law, because we think with this we have more power to negotiate. And in Sao Paulo, it was amazing in the talk, and I was talking with all of you tomorrow in the morning. And it's incredible because we have the political interesting, we have the government supporting us, but we don't have partners. Yeah. We are lonely. Is the government doing the digital fabrication alone? That's when I heard something. Oh, we are a foundation, and we need to go to government and ask for the public policy, and I need to ask for the public service to do something or to build an innovation place. No, the government did the innovation place. We have the policy, but we can talk with economical groups. We have no talk with these groups. They don't have interesting. We have just few organized groups that came to us to do something, and we are there investing in this new economy, and we need partners. So we are here, and we will share with you our reality to change this, because
I've already heard a lot of stories of different cities learning each other how to do a certain thing, which really helps, I guess. We don't have a lot of time left, Liz, but what I would like you to ask.
Is this on? Yeah. Can you ask me the infrastructure question?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, two questions then. Because tomorrow you're going to talk about. No, I'll ask the question after the infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure do you need for the 21st
Good
century?
Question. Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. Only because I totally agree with you, but I want to kind of add on to it, because I think one of the things that it would be nice if we expanded how we understand what infrastructure looks like beyond just like manufacturing technologies. When we look inside a lot of Fab cities, actually every time we do a network analysis, right, we'll go into a Fab city and they'll be like, no, we don't make anything anymore because we don't have the tools to. And then you almost always do a network analysis, and they have tons of manufacturing capacity actually. It's just either been made redundant or they don't have demand, because Amazon is killing all of us. But I think that's one piece of infrastructure. And yes, I would argue we probably have a lot more manufacturing infrastructure inside cities than we think we still do, especially in Western Europe. But I think there's a lot of infrastructure inside cities that we desperately need and we don't currently have. And for me, thanks for asking. For me, two things that really come out is visibility and ownership. So the one thing that is clear when you speak to city municipalities and communities and really the whole public-private sector is nobody actually really knows what's happening inside a city. It's very hard to get an understanding of the current state of a city, what practices are happening, where materials are coming in, where we're losing them, how they're circulating around, what kind of actors are in the networks, how they're connecting with one another. It's not visible at all. And I think that's one of our biggest issues. So it's very hard to understand how to engage in an urban system in a way that transitions it to a sustainable or regenerative state without actually having that kind of visibility. Yeah. And then on top of that, I would say ownership. Yeah. Cities at the moment, a lot of them are operating like private companies. Really. Our public services are kind of failing left, right, and center. even like civic action. Barcelona is amazing for civic participation, but a lot of our cities are not. And we need to develop new ownership infrastructure, actually, to really empower people to take more control of their city. And the city should be in the service of living inhabitants, right? Humans and nature. And I don't think it is currently. For example, we see all of the materials coming into a city and most of it going to waste. But because they're predominantly private companies, we have no idea where those materials are, what quality they are in, and no one in a public sector can actually access them. So if you look at like a material flow of a city, you have tons coming in, and then you just see one little line that says municipal waste. And we have no idea where the rest of those materials are going. So in a Fab City, like, materials should be a common. And if private companies want to use them, they can, but renting.
Yeah.
Because actually the citizens should own them.
Yeah. Anna?
Yeah, in fact, in some cities in Barcelona, we have a very small pilot, but it's not publicly, it's the community that they really have a store, and it's called, I think the project is called a scrap store, and companies are sharing their waste, and they're saying, I have this, and you have that, and they are creating a platform really to share the waste ones with the others and to make something with that. And it's not publicly, it's a community that can do
Exactly.
it. So this can be done. It's a small pilot, it's in a small neighborhood, but in the 22 area in the Innovation District. But yes, this can
But
be
we
happening.
start there, right? And this is one of the things that we're trying to do with Reflow. We're taking 6 cities, big, small, medium, everything, and working with government, private industries, and public communities to really figure out how we have these new, one, operating systems so that you actually understand what's going on in your city to near real time as possible, and 2, new governance models. How do people gain access to these resources to make a better, healthier, more thriving urban economy?
Yeah.
There's many problems to make it happen. Of course,
It's
implementation
very
is always the hard part, but yeah, have to try.
We've got
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
Reflow's 3 years.
And governance, that's the last question I would like to ask. Tomorrow is going to be talk about the governance model for the foundation as well. Could you maybe shortly elaborate on why it's important to talk about that? Maybe it's an open door, but
It's important. It's also that blank slide, that blank half of the table. So we have no idea how this is going to work. But what we there's this famous graphic from MIT that is saying, like, from central to decentralized to distributed, right? And it's more and more nodes and more linkages get added, and less centralization. Now, in that progress towards decentralization, which doesn't always inherently mean empowerment, but in a Fab City context, that's where we're going towards, it can also mean absolute chaos. And a really difficult decision-making model, and a really difficult steering of a ship towards a common direction. So in the collective and in the network, we have so many actors now that we have to fundamentally figure out how we decentralize our governance model. We don't quite know how to do that yet, but I think there's a few common principles. So one of the things that makes Fab City very successful already, and why, even lacking all kinds of metrics, we're able to reach the kind of impact that Thomas showed, is that we're very mission-driven. We're a very mission-oriented organization, and it's a pretty clear mission. It's massive, but it's very clear. And I don't know if anybody reads Mariana Mazzucato. She's amazing. She's
I heard
written
a few so, yeah.
She's rewritten the entire European Commission and how they should operate. She's absolutely amazing. She's written a book called Mission-Orientated Innovation. And her whole idea is if you make a very clear mission and you backcast from that on a kind of annual basis, then you don't need bureaucratic structures. Everybody knows where they're going. And in that way, you're actually able to support people to make decisions at the lowest possible level, which is what we have to do with Fab City. Adding more bureaucracy is not going to expedite this transition that we're all looking for.
Yeah, really important to talk about, yeah. I think we'll bring this panel to a close now. There will be way more sharing of stories during the drinks and tomorrow as well. But I'd like to thank the four in the panel for everything they said. Yes. And as they say, the more the merrier, I think. It's important to learn from each other, and there's already a lot of cities in the network, but there's going to be more. So I'm going to give the floor to Kate Armstrong of the Fab City Foundation. She's going to tell you all about the new cities joining the Fab City Global Initiative. So you're making some space for yourself there, doing some housekeeping. I'm going to give you this microphone and give it up for Kate, please.
Okay, so last year I got to do this very exciting task in Paris, and it was quite an event. We had 10 cities join the network, and this year we have another few cities join the network. I don't know if we maybe gave it away, but we're looking at around 6. And to me that says something, that in the last couple of years onboarding 16 new cities to this network is an incredible achievement. So this evening we have some incredible representatives from these 6 cities, and they've been working tirelessly on top of the roles they already do as community champions. And a community champion is somebody who says, yeah, my city should be a Fab City, and I want my community to have the benefits of being part of this network. And to me that's something very special, and it takes somebody very brave and very talented in a way to do that. And so tonight my job is to celebrate these people and their Fab Lab community, their cities, and also their governments who, like Anna said, stood up and said, yeah, we're going to give this a go, and we want to be part of this. And maybe the rule book isn't quite written, but we're happy to write that with you. So that's why I like this part of the night, so I'm very excited to be here. So just to give you some context around what happens. So this is last year, we had the 10 cities, it's very exciting. I think you can see some familiar faces, Fabian, maybe, yeah. And what happens is that these cities, as community champions, they say, okay, we want to join the network. They find themselves a partnership of 3 different actors in their city, which is the government, it's the Fab Lab or Maker community. Then these people bring kind of the principles of how to work and how we think in this community. And they also bring the citizens. So a representative of somebody who is part of the real people who live in a city. And these 3 actors come together, and maybe it's that the Fab Lab talks to the city, or the city talks to the Fab Lab. Doesn't matter which way it works. And they come together to write a letter of recommendation from the mayor of the city, and to make a 1-minute video. And tonight, as I go through each of the cities who are going to join the network, we get to see those very beautiful videos that get made from each city, and they're really, some of them are very work of art, you know, this is really kind of stuff. But it's a lot of effort that goes into this process. So I would like to be able to share with you, and also to celebrate the fact that you will join this network tonight. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to announce the name of the city. I will play the video, then the representative will come up, and our cities coordinator and Fab City coordinator, Ida, will help me to pass you the Fab City welcome pack. And then you will press the button, the very esteemed button. This is important, because why we have a button is in 2014, Neil Gershenfeld came to Barcelona, am I right, Tomas? And he said, are you ready to push the button? And it literally meant that they were going to start the clock to take us to 2054, when all of our cities would be self-sufficient, locally productive and globally connected. So this is kind of become a symbol of saying, yeah, let's join the community. Yes, as the community champion, we're here. As a city, we're here. We're going to join and we're going to be part of it. So yeah, tonight you will press the button because this is important as part of the way that we work in the network. So without further ado, Ida, would you mind helping me? That would be wonderful. This is Ida, wonderful coordinator of Fab City. Okay. And actually, I'd like to invite another wonderful woman to the stage, Liz, as chairwoman of the Fab City Foundation. Would you mind coming to please welcome the cities with a very official handshake?
Oh, I can't.
I think it's important. I think it's important. So, book, handshake, button. Right? Here we go. So at the moment we've got 28 cities. Many of them are here tonight. We have Seoul, we have Puebla, we have Curitiba, we have Barcelona. So who else do we have? Anyone? Shout out if you're here. Sorocaba, yes, exactly. Yes, many. And so let's get on with it. Yeah? Do we have a drum roll? No, okay, fine. Here we go. So this is the first city joining the network is Hamburg in Germany. So I'm going to play the video.
Moin Moin. My name is Michael Vestagermann and I am the Minister of Economy, Transport and Innovation of the free and Hanseatic city of Hamburg. I am very delighted to express my strongest support to make Hamburg a Fab City. Hamburg is a logistic metropolis with 1.8 million residents in northern Germany.
As Hanseatic city, Hamburg has a very long trade history. Hamburg's port is the third largest in Europe.
Actually, we are in the middle of the digital transformation to change our way of living,
working and locomotion.
And that's our chance. Now we can design the way that this development is taking.
We can make a difference.
Hamburg has a very diverse fabrication ecosystem consisting of a vibrant community of makers, of entrepreneurs and excellent research institutes
that will support circular economic practices on a citywide scale.
In Fab Labs and makerspaces, we experience
creativity, curiosity and openness to innovation and solutions
that induce real changes in our way of living.
We want to support this access to qualification, to deal with digital technologies for everyone, and use the diversity and potential within our city.
This is the way. We want to become an engaged city within the Fab City network of locally productive and globally connected cities, inspire and learn from each other. To me, this is a great honor. Greetings from Hamburg.
We can make a difference.
So, welcome Hamburg. So next we have another beautiful city, the first in the UK. Welcome, Plymouth.
Plymouth is a city of makers, a city of social enterprise. a city of voyagers, discoverers and explorers. And as Britain's ocean city, it is home to those who strive in charting new waters. As many have done before, we look to the horizon for new opportunities for commerce, for trade and for innovation. The Fab City initiative perfectly underpins our ambitions and indeed our activity in seeking out new ways to make our city more sustainable, more inclusive, ambitious and ultimately more productive.
And we're making a bid to become the UK's first Fab City. Now, why are we doing that? Well, we've all heard about globalism and we've all heard about the rise of urbanism. Most of us are going to be living in cities in a very short period of time. Sometime this century, more of us are going to be living in cities than ever before. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to create a lot more waste, and we need cities to do something about that.
Plymouth is recognised for its strength across marine industries and advanced manufacturing, with global companies and world-leading research institutions already based here. And as we move to rebalance the economy, there is an increasing role for the voluntary sector and community and social enterprise sector. Plymouth has recognised the value of the social economy, and as Britain's first social enterprise city, there are around 150 social enterprises, employing around 7,000 people and bringing in an income of over £500 million.
We need to get better at producing what it is we consume. We need to get better at making sure that we don't leave a waste stream behind us as we continue economic growth. And this responsibility is really important, no more important than its impact on climate and climate change. This is a council that's already declared a climate emergency. We'd already signed up to the Paris Accord, but things are not moving fast enough. And we know that we need to make sure that we accelerate our programme of greening our city, of making it more environmentally responsible and sustainable. And we can only do that by making sure that we don't just talk about it, but that we have actions.
We are a small city, but an agile one. A place that seeks to reinvent itself, harnessing an all-important culture of creativity, technology and people-led solutions to overcome the challenges we have had to face over the years. We see this investment in people, in manufacturing, design, heritage, technology and creativity as central pillars and the motivating factors to our joining of the Fab City movement. And we pledge that as a city we will work towards the goal of producing what we consume by 2054.
Next up, we have another Brazilian city joining the network, which is very exciting. Chris, also, come on, everybody up. Recife, Brasil.
Eu quero registrar o compromisso com o interesse que o Recife tem de participar do Fab City Global para o engajamento em iniciativas de resiliência urbana e a formação de cidadãos conectados com um futuro autossustentável. O mundo está em transformação, a sociedade tem mudado muito e a educação é o caminho para a gente formar as pessoas para esse futuro. Aqui no Recife nós usamos muitos recursos de tecnologia em apoio ao ensino pedagógico para transformar a formação de pessoas nas nossas redes de educação. A gente tem também a iniciativa dos laboratórios de ciência e tecnologia que trazem 4 áreas específicas, não só o antigo laboratório de biologia e química, mas a gente tem lá dentro a parte de robótica, a parte de programação e também o espaço maker. O Recife é uma cidade inovadora, o movimento maker aqui é muito forte e ele tem como ícone o Fab Lab Recife, que está na parceria conosco, dentro das nossas escolas, dentro dos nossos laboratórios de ciência e tecnologia, criando espaço maker para a formação dos nossos alunos para essa nova sociedade. Então eu quero aqui, mais uma vez, registrar. O Recife tem interesse nessa conexão global, o Recife tem interesse em participar de tudo que tem acontecido no mundo. Nós temos aqui um grande parque tecnológico conectado globalmente. O futuro do Recife está ligado à nova economia e à inovação. Então fica aqui esse registro do compromisso da nossa cidade. O Fab City Global faz parte do nosso futuro.
Para aqui, fica aqui.
3, 2, 1. Okay, and now a little bit closer to home, we'd like to welcome another French city to the stage, Rennes from France, Rennes metropolitan area.
Avec plus de 12 Fab Labs fédérés sous la charte Lab Fab et le soutien de Rennes Métropole, le territoire a une forte expérience autour de la fabrication numérique portée par une communauté active.
There are lots of experiments and an incredible dynamic on digital technologies and digital fabrication issues. Thanks to this dynamic, a lot of communities have emerged. So to support this, Rennes Metropole expresses the desire of being part of the Fab Cities global movement. And here in Rennes, we already have great features like the Fab Lab Étendu. That's an extended Lab Fab offering a network of Fab Labs that give access to distributed and connected resources. Besides, this network has inclusive communities that cause an impact on society and develop new ways of learning and creating. Rennes has an action plan that's becoming a real ecological territory. As a matter of fact, it approved a climate plan targeting 40% greenhouse gas emission reduction by 2030. People who live in Rennes love their city, and the city is glad to welcome them as an active citizen for voting on citizen budget participation, for instance.
Le Lab Fab étendu est une démarche partenariale entre des associations, des universités, des écoles, des entreprises et Rennes Métropole. Cette démarche a démarré en 2012 par l'ouverture d'un premier lieu de fabrication numérique à Rennes au sein de l'ESAB, l'École supérieure d'art de Bretagne. À partir de 2013, une volonté commune de l'ensemble des acteurs a été d'étendre différents lieux de fabrication numérique des Lab Fab partout sur le territoire de Rennes. Le Lab Fab a pour objectif de développer des projets par itération, l'apprentissage des compétences numériques, l'expérimentation des nouveaux modèles économiques liés à l'open source et à l'open hardware, construire un système de coopération basé sur l'open source et le partage et l'inclusion numérique.
Besides the open labs, free access every week for anybody and workshops, many events are organized by and for the makers and curious. More and more hybridations from prototyping runs with companies about connected home and connected objects to the open source vehicle.
Nous croyons en ce mouvement et voulons explorer, contribuer et promouvoir avec vous tous la Fab City.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going back to the Global South. This is another, I think we have a trend happening, another Brazilian city, Sao Paulo. We already heard from them today, which is very exciting. Yeah, another Brazilian city to join the network.
A cidade de São Paulo quer cada vez mais ser conhecida como um grande hub de inovação e tecnologia. A cidade que, ao se industrializar, industrializou o país, hoje é vocacionada à economia criativa.
E o Fab Lab é um dos projetos mais bonitos e mais interessantes e mais importantes que nós temos hoje na cidade de São Paulo. Distribuídos por várias regiões da cidade, em lugares os mais diversos, totalmente abertos para que a população de todas as faixas etárias possa se utilizar, nos ajudam a fazer e a entender uma cidade mais moderna, mais inteligente, mas principalmente mais humana.
E a cidade fica feliz de agora fazer parte do Fab City Global Initiative, que a cidade possa levar a experiência dos Fab Labs, trazer o que há de mais inovador em políticas públicas para que a gente possa garantir que a cidade de São Paulo seja cada vez mais inteligente, cada vez mais tecnológica, cada vez mais humana.
Okay, and staying in the Global South, which is also exciting, we have a group of people who have worked very hard to be here, and it's very nice that they're represented. This is the region of Yucatan from Mexico. So welcome, yeah.
Hello, my name is Antonio Gonzalez, and I am the General Director of the Yucatecan Institute of Entrepreneurship. And it is an honor for me, from the capital of the ancient Mayan culture, to say Yucatan joins the Fab City Global Initiative. We live in a time of constant change, where the present has become a breaking point for our future. Today, it's the perfect moment to unite, to connect, to share, to transform. Yucatan has a unique cultural, geographical, and social characteristics. We have both the safest state and capital city through the country. In addition, both are also international benchmarks for their quality of life, natural wealth, and historical heritage. In Yucatan, we have initiated and articulated work with government, private institutions, and organized society to implement a Fab City strategy at a regional level. Today, we can say that we are using technology as a means of open innovation, empowerment, and insertion of skills in citizens through entrepreneurship centers and Fab Labs that allow decentralization of education. That is why Yucatan has opted for the digital era, empowering citizens towards the collaborative transformation of our environment. Our society is the agent of change that invents and reinvents, that innovates, and that together with the government creates the public policies aimed to improve the living condition of families and the environment of our territory. Together, we will be able to create a paradigm shift for the common good and the direction of a path to be locally productive and globally connected. I, Antonio Gonzalez, on behalf of Mr. Mauricio Vila, Governor of the state of Yucatan, reaffirm the active commitment of this administration to articulate the initiative through the co-creation of projects aligned to the values of the Fab City Manifesto and its strategic approaches such as technological education, empowerment, technological entrepreneurship, citizen participation, open data, circular economy, governance, among others, to transform these concepts into actions to make our planet a better place to live.
Nice video to end on. So we cap this year at 34 cities, but there's already some faces in the room that they're hungry. They're hungry to be in Montreal next year and to join us on stage to also join this network of incredible community champions and the cities that they bring with them. So thank you for coming, and I think we should give you all a round of applause, and thank you for being here with us. Yeah. And at the end, we can get a group photo with the very important 34 members. Yeah, 2019. But just before I go until next year, last year I was saying I was in Paris doing this by myself on stage, big space, small human, mildly scary. But this year I'm doing it with Ida and Liz. And it's very empowering also for me inside the global initiative to have other community champions like Ida and the people that we have in the network and the foundation. This means that this initiative is growing and this initiative is becoming stronger with the people who drive it. And to me, this is an extremely exciting and very hopeful moment. So thank you so much for being here, and see you after for a beer in the foyer. That sounds good.
Thank you so much. Do you need your water? Yes, we're almost at the end of this this program, but not before we have Montreal inviting you for the Fab City Summit in 2020. Someone already spoiled it. They will be in Montreal, and now we know it for sure. But why should you go there? I'd like to give the floor to Raquel and Barbara, and they're going to tell you a bit more about that. Give them a warm round of applause, please.
And I would like to invite Pierre, Laurent, Simon, and Pon, and Sophie. Who else is from Montreal? Can you all come here?
Who wants a microphone as well?
It's fine.
Yeah?
It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Just one mic. You don't need a mic. Yeah, just one mic. So do we bring the video first? I understand. Yeah. Right video. That's for tomorrow. Well, I think it gives you a taste.
Yeah, maybe you can do it other way around while we look for the video.
What do you mean? Talk before? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, Pierre Laurent, Simon, Barbara, Pon, Sophie, you know, they are all, as we have said, part of what we are doing in Montreal, the process. We're working with the people, and this is why I'm very excited to be here, just to say, as president of Communatique, I've been with Communatique since 2012, and I was not in Paris last year, but seeing and hearing what just happened here, I mean, I got really excited, and I think it's a great opportunity to be here and to be able to share and to invite you formally to Montreal. I will go back to something that will happen in the video, but I think Communatique is an NGO. It's an NGO of open innovation, and started 20 years ago, trying to democratize technology by bringing the citizens connected to the internet, understanding what the internet was, and later on, when the Fab Labs came to happen and to be the movement that it was, Communatique was the first one to bring the Fab Lab to Montreal, the EcoFab, and then later on was at the base of creating the network of Fab Labs. Pon can talk about it. And in 2017, Pon was part of, two other people were part of what we had called the Fab Lab Nation, so a coast to coast in Montreal, crossing across Canada to bring, was it 3 months in a van, went to all the cities throughout Canada, contacting the makers, bringing the Fab Lab idea and the Fab Lab connection. And so that really was an amazing opportunity to really spread out the word. And so that gives us a lot of take and levier to bring. So do I stop talking right now and then say and to say that now we were ready to start thinking of imagining the Fab City, Montreal as a Fab City. So this happened last year. So since 2017, Thomas came to Montreal to the World Design Summit. And last year in Paris in 2018, we pledged to become a Fab City. It's a long way. And we are, I heard you talking about Paris. And really, we're after like the big event after Paris, but we don't want to get stressed about it. So we're saying we have 35 years, maybe less because you started in 2014, but we want to take the long time to understand what this is and how we can transform cities. And so this is our pledge, and this is how we're working with this. But just very formal, is it going to be happening in Montreal next year, the Fab 16. So it's going to be from the 27th of July to August 2nd. Then the Fab City Summit from the 31st of July to the 2nd of August. So there's going to be an overlap on the 31st of July where the two communities will come together. And then we'll have, and the Fab City campus that will go from the 25th of July to the 2nd of August. But this is just a moment. This is an event, but for us, we're taking this as a moment on something that we had, we're devising, using something that Communitique is also a living lab. So we're using a methodology that we use it with when we developed the Fab Lab network in Quebec, and then with the Fab Nation also. So it's an in-resident co-design process. What does it mean is that we are already starting to work to involve the community. Why Montreal says that this is an opportunity for us? Because we believe that Montreal is a fertile territory to foster the Fab Lab, the Fab City movement. So we are using this methodology. We had already, so the whole process will be on this co-design process. And what does it mean? And what is interesting is that we are, tomorrow, we're calling this an international co-design process because you all gonna be involved in being part of what we're doing. So we already did 2 meetings, mid-May and mid-June, and the meetings are to see who is the community, what do you need, what can we do, how do you wanna collaborate, how do you wanna be a part of it? So these are part of the invitation. So tomorrow, you are also going to be part of it. I've listened, I've talked to different people, and I think we are an amazing, and what I just heard from the 4 people, the panel that was sitting there, we're totally connected, and I think this is the way we're doing it. We're feeding from each other, and this is the process it will take a little bit longer, but this is, so in September, the co-design process has 3 times. So the first, we're collecting, we're getting interviews, and we're connecting with the community. And in September, we're gonna start the first phase that is dream, rêver, soñar. And so this is how we are gonna bring all people involved, are gonna bring the projects. We're already talking to Rennes that can come and do, continue the process that they are doing in Rennes. And so this is the first phase. The second phase is the prototype phase, and that is what is going to happen in the event in Montreal next year. So we are all going to be prototyping what we are dreaming about, how we imagine a Fab City. And the third phase, so in the long time, is the integration, the engagement. So so this is gonna take a little bit of time, and the person from Seoul saying, bring down the barriers with the city. Transforming, how do we bring a process like this one is a transversal process that we wanna inflict and change every single aspect of how do we live in a city with structures, municipal structures that are silo. So at this moment, our project is in different silos, and we're just trying to see how we can wave through this. So we have the ambition to influence the first ecological transition plan that the city wants to do. And when I'm saying this, it's not a top-down process, it's with the community, how we are all going to work. We still haven't seen, we had 150 people that have come to our meetings. We know private enterprise are not there yet. How can we reach out? Universities are coming too. So, and the major ambition, Tomas and I come from the urban design world, so we want to inflict how the territory can be changed. What is the transformation? What's the form of the city when we talk from the process, when we invent, when we imagine a Fab City? So that's the greatest ambition, to influence the next urban plan of Montreal. So, I mean, we have to dream, then we have to figure out how we do it, and I think we can learn from each other, and we can learn from what's happening here. So at this moment, this is where we are. Tomorrow you're gonna be part of the process, and we're exploring 5 tracks or 3 tracks. One is the social ecological transformation, how the second one is really territory. How do we transform the territory? What's the form of the city when we are going back to produce everything we need? Because the cities were like this, as we know. The cities when they were more human, they were like this. And how, by doing this, we're also moving into understanding the territory as a living system, as a social living system, as a form, as a nature, as how we move, how mobility happens in this sense. And we're also exploring the commons, how the territory can become a commons. And since we are in the Americas, we are in Canada, we are really moving on the direction of integrating the perspective, the vision of the First Nations. I don't think we cannot do this without going back to this voice, which had a relationship with the territory in a much more balanced way. So that's a challenge that we're putting ourselves into. And because we are in the Americas, and I'm Colombian, so I'm in Montreal, I'm inviting, we already, I counted, we were half of the Fab cities were in the Americas, and now we're still half of the cities. So we're 14 cities, Fab cities in the Americas, and we really want to move from this horizontal level to the vertical and really be instigator of the challenges and the power that you guys also have shown here of what can we bring back to the cities, and to how do we, the whole innovation, and there are a lot of things happening in our cities, and I think we can share that. So that's part of our challenge. I think we're talking about regenerative economy. So I think in the whole sense, yes.
The video is ready.
The deep question is that we need to do a cultural shift. And so this is the transversal process that we're working on. So here's the video.
Beautiful introduction. Thank you. thank you so much. If people would like to know more about it, you can come to one of the team, and they'll tell you a bit more for sure. Put those dates into your agenda. I said no. I guess they're in your agenda already. Yeah. So what's next? Thomas, maybe you can you can tell this better than me, I think. So if you can elaborate on this a little bit more.
Yeah, this is the yearly event of the Fab Lab network. So this is the 1800 Fab Labs meeting once a year in different parts of the world. This year is in Egypt, where we're going to host a whole Fab City track. And it's, again, like a very end of July. I guess it's going to be very, very hot. But it's going to be in a resort, so probably we're going to host workshops in the swimming pool and something like that. So you are, welcome to join.
Sounds beautiful. Then, some tips for this week. There's a new Amsterdam night on the roof of Nemo, which is the building it's somewhere there. It's a science museum, and it's really worthwhile to visit it tomorrow evening. And then there's the WeMakeThe.City weekend as well in Amsterdam and the surroundings. Make sure you check the full program on WeMakeThe.City. And you can visit an exhibition outside here as well. But if you would like to, you can also go to the center of the WeMakeThe.City festival. It's a homeland on the marine area, not really next door, but really close by. But check the website for the program. For now, I think this was the last slide. And this was Click? It's the WeMakeThe.City logo. Yeah. So for now, thank you all so much for attending, for sharing your stories. I'd like to thank the organization as well of this summit. It's not over yet. Make sure you enjoy it. I'm going to give the mic. Yeah. Yes, and make sure you stay for the group picture. Get a drink together. Visit some more events of WeMakeThe.City, and make sure to share all your stories. Thank you for tonight, and I hope you enjoy Amsterdam. Thank you so much. And we will take a group picture now. So come to the front, please.